Hey everybody, we are back in the studio catching up with Mike, and you may have seen it. We did a video on how to get the best audio for your vocals when you're recording in a home studio. Today Mike's kindly offered to sit down and chat about how to get the best acoustic guitar sound and what you need to set up to have that happen at home. In terms of setting up for me to record my acoustic guitar, I've set up, maybe I've got a mattress or some heavy curtains in the bedroom to absorb some sound in my home studio. What should I be aware of in terms of mic placement, in terms of obviously not sitting on a squeaky stool?
I was just going to say, that's the first thing. I've got a chair in there that I know doesn't squeak. And it's the one I use because that can be a real deal breaker when you've done a great track and there's a creak right at the end as you're waiting for the last chord to decay. So sit on the edge of the bed or somewhere where there's definitely no movement noise, because that microphones that are recording guitars are usually turned up fairly loud. A guitar is not a loud instrument by nature. So therefore, things like the amount of gain you apply become quite critical because you're generally using a fair amount of boost.
Right.
So if you've got a noisy environment around the mic, whether it's a chair that's squeaking, or very often the noise that the guitar varnish on the body makes against denim jeans, for example, are not a good idea. Something about denim rubbing against the varnish of a guitar makes a real loud squeak. Yeah. So I'm told by some of my professional session guys that they wear certain clothes or put a cloth of a certain type of material.
Get your recording pants on.
Yeah. And that's a critical part because a lot of clunks and mechanical noises get generated from a guitar performance, and you want to try to minimize those. They're all part of the organic sound. Yes. That's lovely. I mean, don't ever worry about a fret squeak. Don't try to eliminate it, but you don't want an exaggerated fret squeak.
Sure.
So things like that, you've got to watch. There are some products that you can spray on the strings that help to reduce that very loud squeak as you move around, which is often a good idea. So look at that, but also these little movements, you've got to learn to sit pretty still. Try to sit as still as you possibly can and yet still have some humanity in your performance, because you're not a robot. But you can't do you can't get lost in the moment. And you don't see many sessions, videos of professionals where they're actually the acoustic guitars, if you study them carefully, when you watch them, famous session play, they are sitting extremely carefully and their technique is all designed around minimal movements. So that's important. Sit on something that doesn't squeak. Pay attention to the noises that you're generating. And a good way to check this is, again, record some silence and just hold your guitar and just make a few subtle movements and you will be appalled at what the clunks, squeaks, whacks that you hear, and you're not even playing yet. Yeah. So look at that. Go to as dead an environment as you can. Don't record out in the hallway.
Sure.
If you can avoid it, because you're going to get a lot of room coloration, which makes editing later difficult because you're going to chop the room sound in and out. So your bedroom is great with a dull, dead sound as possible. Tune your guitar. Seriously, this is so often overlooked. Tune the guitar and tune it regularly. Check it before you do a major take.
Yeah.
The weather can change your tuning, and then a string might have gone out slightly and you're stuck with it. And there's nothing you can do about it after the fact. So I get the guys to check the tuning as often as they want to, and at least before each major take. Just check nothing's gone out.
Anything else that's on the radar that to be aware of before heading into the studio and recording for guitars?
I tell you what's very important is check the condition of your guitar's intonation. I think the term they use is setting up. The setting up or the setting up of your guitar. That's quite crucial. There's a rod, a tension rod inside the neck of the guitar. You may come across this phenomenon where you check the tuning of your guitar and it's perfectly in tune with the tuner. And yet go higher up the fret and hit a chord and it's obviously out of tune. That's something that needs mechanical adjustment because no amount of tuning is going to fix that. You might, we've had to do this in desperation when it's too late to go out and get it fixed, sort of tune for that chord.
Right.
But then when you go elsewhere, it's going to be out. So that you must send to a professional to have set up so that your guitar is in tune across as wide a range as possible.
Yeah. For the guitarist, in terms of a way to check this, you can play a harmonic at the 12th fret and then play the same note actually fretted at the 12th fret, and you'll hear if there's a distinct pitch difference between the two, which can just give you an idea of, you may find it's on just one string or more significant than, say, the high E is quite far out.
Yes.
And then as you go down, it may be more balanced.
Yes.
But that's just a way to check if that's going to be an issue if you're moving, I guess, from your first frets right up to, say, 15 or something, playing different parts of the same.
And sometimes it doesn't even have to go that far before you start to hear it. It's something that crops up more than you realize. I'm not a guitarist, I'm a keyboard piano player, but it's something that regularly rears its ugly head. Not among professionals who are aware of it, but for people who are not necessarily aware of this, it's something that you really need to give attention to, because that's going to ruin any attempts you make at a recording. Because, as I said, once it's recorded that way, with that intonation error, it's impossible to fix after the fact. And it's not impossible these days. There's a multi-track Melodyne, that polyphonic, that but my experience of using that is let's just say it has limited chances of fixing, although it's theoretically possible to go in. So just to cancel that criticism out, that it's impossible. Generally speaking, for the people we're talking to, once it's recorded, there's nothing you can do with tuning. So do your best to fix that before you start recording. In terms of other preparation, there's nothing much else you need to do. You're recording at home, so if you decide to change your song and rearrange, fine, no problem, your time is your own. So apart from the few things we've mentioned, that's about it in terms of preparation for the guitar. That's the recording side of it. Then there's a whole lovely new thing that we can talk about once you've done the recording of, which is capturing the natural tone of your guitar as closely as possible and as cleanly as possible. Then what do you do when you play it back to get the best sound out of your voice and your guitar? But so this time specifically the guitar. I get asked quite a lot which mic is best for my acoustic guitar. And you know, the answer is quite simply pretty much any condenser mic these days will do a fabulous job. Condenser mics being something like this. I'll just grab this little one here. I'm a big fan of Rode. I don't get paid by them at all for anything, but I've just learned over the years that these are excellent for home recorders because they have extremely low self-noise. In fact, this is the Rode NT1. I think the newer NT18 is one of the quietest condenser mics available today. Its self-noise is ridiculously quiet, which is great for acoustic guitars because, like I said, it's not a loud instrument, so you want to generate as little noise from the mic as you can. The problem with using dynamic mics like an SM58 or an SM57, as a lot of people have, is that a dynamic mic generally needs more gain to drive it because it has a lower output level. Generally speaking, condenser mics usually have a higher output level, which means you don't need as much gain from your preamp, which means your noise is going to stay down. So it's all good news. So a condenser mic is my choice. It's a warm, round, nice sound generally from a condenser too. So something like this, a few $100, all you need. Where you put it. The best thing to do is To show you what the position of a mic with a guitar usually involves, stick your headphones on, turn up the volume of the mic quite loud so that you can hear exactly what it's doing, and then just even strumming open strings, just move the mic around in an arc like this. So you've got your guitar here, and just move it from here to here, and listen to how the tone changes. And you'll hear quite a dramatic difference. And that'll help you to understand quicker than I can explain, without even getting technical about why it's happening. You'll go, oh, generally towards the frets, it's a trebly sound, more treble. As you get closer to the bridge, you'll notice it gets boomier and more bassy, and that's the spectrum that you can play with. Every guitar is different, depending on its shape. So you may find, as a general rule though, honestly, I don't even do this much anymore nowadays, because I've learned that opposite the 12th fret, pretty much in the middle, at a distance of about that, for general use. This is where I would put it. That's what works for me. It's pretty much aiming straight at the hole or thereabouts, aim for there. As a general rule, the more you come around this way, the treblier or the brighter it becomes, and the more you move your mic to that side, the boomier and more bassy it'll become. So you want to find something in between that you like hearing. It's a natural sound, and usually 9 times out of 10, it's right there, and about that pretty much level. You don't want to get too low, because then you'll pick up noise of the scraping of the varnish on your jeans or your trousers or your dress, whatever the case. Or you might find mechanical noises from the chair.
The first time I come in a dress to record at your studio, Mike.
Yeah, right.
Yes, I'll keep that in mind.
Pick a chair that doesn't squeak. Also, you don't want to go too high with your mic. I mean, that's asking for trouble, because what's it going to hear? Your breathing. And every inhalation and exhalation is going to be on the track. Because keep in mind, when you're recording guitars, they're not loud instruments. So the gain on your mics is usually fairly high. So anything other than the guitar is going to be amplified. You don't want that. That position, for me, works really well 99% of the time. That'll give me a nice neutral sound. If you're doing finger picking, can you just pick something as you would, Dave, just a picking pattern. See, that's quite a gentle sound. So therefore, with picking like that, you can come really close in, as close as that, I'd say. You don't want to get more than that, because then you'll start to hear finger noise. And back here is unnecessarily far away, because that's going to just, because it's a relatively low level for picking, is going to be picking up a lot more of the room, and you're going to need a lot more gain to get a decent level from this. That might still get away with it, but even further back, you're getting into trouble. When you're strumming, on the other hand, if you can briefly give me a nice strumming thing to show just the difference. See, straight away, okay, just sitting here, which is my ears are pretty much hearing what the mic is. Here I'm hearing a lot louder than the finger picking. So therefore, you wouldn't want to use that finger picking position there for a loud strumming section. You're going to hear way too much plectrum noise scraping, and it's going to just be too loud. You could even risk distorting your channel of your interface. So for strumming, I like to go about there. Capture some of the overall sound and air that's around the guitar. That would be good for strumming. That would be good for picking. And that's about it. That's all there is to it. And just watch your noises, your external. You see, listen to that. It's the varnish. That's a killer. Golden rule too. At the end of your song, freeze. I get everyone. It's a joke, but as we get to that last chord, do not move, do not breathe until you're way past the point where the fade for the song has happened. There's nothing worse than at the end of the song, as it decays, you hear, move your fret now. Or even worse,
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it's just awful. So keep a long, tidy tail way a good few seconds past where you know you're safely gone, and then move. Golden rule. Just be careful of one thing that can catch you out. Most of these side address condenser mics have a very identical profile when you look at them, and you can quite easily accidentally have the wrong side facing where you want to record. And although it sounds silly, it can happen. So on the Rhodes, for example, there's this little dot. Most mics have got something that indicate the active side of the mic. If you accidentally have it facing the wrong way, you're going to have a very dull recording, because that's the dead spot in the cardioid pickup. You want to be facing the right way. Just be careful of that.